coming from materials and energy. So the question is saying the following diagrams show two instruments used when measuring mass and weight. So I have this instrument here, which is labeled as X, and this instrument labeled as Y. So the first question is saying define the following. So we have mass and weight. Now before I define what mass and weight is, you need to know the relationship between weight and mass. So weight is equal to mass multiplied by gravity. Usually mass is measured in kgs, and I think you know that mass, or the SI units for mass, are the kgs. Then for this one here, gravity, it is usually 10 Newton per kgs. So this one is constant, it doesn't change. So this value you need to know it, and then the SI units are newtons per kgs. That is one thing that needs to know. Now, what about weight? So if you do the assumption here by saying here we have mass, which is kgs, then multiplied by this pair here is more like division. So we are going to find that we are going to have newton then divided by kgs. So kg and kg, they can cancel each other, therefore we are going to remain with newton. So weight is measured in newtons. So this one is very, very important. Whenever you calculate weight, you need to make sure that you add or you put newtons. For example, if you find your answer to be 2, put n, which is calculator n, to represent newtons. So this is how you're supposed to go about it. Now usually when you talk of weight, weight is just a pull of gravity on an object. So we can say the pull of gravity on an object. The pull of gravity on an object. So this one is very, very important to understand. Now let me explain why weight is defined as the pull of gravity on an object. What is this instrument X? This instrument X is called the spring balance. That is instrument X. This one is very, very important to know. So the spring balance measures the weight of an object, and remember it is measured in newtons. So what this spring does, or spring balance does, if you're having a spring balance, let me just draw a rough spring, something like this one here, and then you hang something here. Let's say you hang a stone. Let's say this one is a stone. What is going to happen here is that always the pull of gravity goes downward. Okay, so the pull of gravity acts downward to an object. So when we say the pull of gravity on an object, meaning when you hang this stone here, what is going to happen is that the gravity is going to pull this stone downward. So that is very, very important to understand. So that is what weight is. So the pull of gravity on an object. Then when it comes to mass, what is mass? Mass is defined as the quantity of matter in an object. So we can say the quantity of matter in an object, not on an object, but in an object. So that is very, very important also to understand the quantity of matter in an object. Now usually mass is measured in kilograms, like we said, and it is measured by an instrument called the beam balance. Okay, so this one is called the beam balance. There is also other instrument that you can use to measure mass of an object, and that one is called the triple balance. But this one here, which is in instrument Y, it is not the triple balance, it's a beam balance. So we also have the triple balance. So this triple balance, it can also be used to measure the mass of an object. Now this instrument Y, like I said, it is a beam balance. So that is one thing that you need to know. But usually the beam balance, sometimes, but in most of the cases, it measures the weight in grams. Okay, it measures the weight in grams. Now you need to know the relationship between grams and kgs. So one thing that you need to know is that 1 kg is equivalent or is approximately 1000 what grams. So now we have said that the mass is measured in kgs, but this one here measures mass in grams. So how can you convert now grams into kgs? So let's say, for example, they have given you 200 grams as your mass, and you want to convert that one into kgs. And actually, when you are calculating the weight here, you need to make sure that mass should be in kgs. Now let's say, for example, they have given you mass in grams as 200 grams. How can you convert this one into kgs? So you need to say that here we are having kgs and here we are having what? We are having grams. So that is when now you are going to put your 200 grams. Then you say let this one be x, and then you find what x is. So actually these, they are going to cancel each other, the grams. So when you multiply here, 200 multiplied by 1 kg, we are going to get 200 kgs. Then is equal to x multiplied by 1000, we are going to get 1000. So from here we know to say that we are having 1000 x, so I can just divide by 1000 to both sides. So if I divide by 1000, so this one is very important, you need to know it. So this 1000 and this one, they are going to cancel each other, so I'm going to remain with x. So x is going to be equal to this 0 and this one here, this one and this one. Then here I'm going to remain with 2 divided by 10. So I can say 2 into 2, that is 1, then 2 into 10, that is 5. So it is 1 over 5. So still here we haven't done, so we can just say 5 into 1, that is 0, then we put a point, then we add the 0. So 5 into 10, we are going to get what? 2. So meaning to say that 200 grams into kgs, it is what? 0.2 grams. So here you're not supposed to use a calculator for your grade 9s. Right, now one thing that you need to understand here is that the mass of an object doesn't change. So for example, if you're having 20 kg on Earth, even when you go to the moon, you're going to find that this mass here is just going to be the same, which is 20 kg. So that is very important to know. Mass does not change. In short, you can say mass remain constant from place to place. Now what about weight? The weight of an object. Just imagine if you are having a 20 Newton object, then you go to the space, okay, or you go to the moon. There you're going to find that the gravity is low. So this 20 newtons is going to be reduced maybe to 2 newtons maybe. You can even lift this one with one finger if you want. So one thing that you need to know here is that weight changes from place to place, but mass does not change. So let's try to answer these questions now. So when it comes to the definition of the mass, we have said it is the quantity of matter in an object. Then when it comes to the weight, we have said weight is the pull of gravity on an object, because we know to say that the gravity acts downward. That is one thing that you need to know. Then question B saying which instruments X or Y measures Roman numeral number 1 mass. So which instrument here measures mass? It is this one here, which is instrument Y. This question is not saying you naming what instrument Y is. No, it is asking the instrument which measures the mass. So you're not supposed to say beam balance, but you're supposed to say instrument Y. So that is the answer for this one here. So you say instrument Y. Then when it comes to the weight, we know to say that it is the spring balance, but they are saying which instrument according to the labels which they have given us. So meaning we need to say that it is instrument X. So this is how you're supposed to answer this one. Now the second one is saying what happens to the mass. So they are asking us what happens to the mass and the weight of an object when moved from place to place. For example, you are having 20 kg on Earth and then you go to the moon. What is going to happen to the mass? Is it going to change or remain the same? What is going to happen to the weight? Is it going to change or remain the same? So one thing that you need to understand here, I've explained that the mass is going to remain constant from place to place. So you can just say mass remains constant from place to place. So you can say remains what? Constant. Then when it comes to the weight, what happens to the weight? Because here we have two masses. So what happens to the weight? We are going to say weight changes. That is one thing that you need to know. So weight what? Changes from place to place. So that is what we have discussed. So let's try to look at other questions. So this second question is saying and it is coming from the human body. It is saying the following diagram shows the shape of the chest during inspiration and expiration. So which one here is involving in inspiration and which one here is involving in expiration? Usually during inspiration, when you talk of inspiration, you are taking in oxygen or air, because air is just a combination of different gases. So let me just say you are taking in air. Then when it comes to expiration, you are taking out what? You are taking out air or carbon dioxide, I can say specifically. So that is one thing that you need to know. Now when you're taking in air, what is going to happen to the chest shape is that it is going to increase or it is going to expand. As you can see here, this part here, it is called the diaphragm. Okay, so this one is called the diaphragm. Now during inspiration, what is going to happen to the diaphragm is that it is going to increase in size, or you can just say it is going to relax. Okay, yeah, it is going to relax during inspiration. As you can see here, it is relaxed. Then during expiration, what is happening to the diaphragm is that it is doing what? It is contracting. So H is called the diaphragm, which I have written here. And these, they are called the ribs. Okay, so these ones that you can see here, they are called the ribs or intercostal. So these are called the ribs, and H is called the diaphragm. So like I said, during expiration, the chest shape or the shape of the chest is going to reduce in size. So it is reducing in size, as you can see here. Now during inspiration, it is expanding, increasing in size. So that is one thing that you need to know. Now the first question is saying which diagram shows that inspiration has taken place. Like I said, inspiration is you're taking air in. So we are just going to say it's diagram B. So that is what you're supposed to say, diagram B. Then you are done. So we have diagram B. Okay. Then for question B, it is saying identify the parts of the body. We have G and H. Like I said, G is just representing the what? The ribs. Okay. So you can just say the ribs. Then for H, I've written it here, which is the diaphragm. So we can say the diaphragm. So I think these are just very simple questions. You just need to, you're supposed to require to, you are just supposed to know all these parts and what usually happens during inspiration and expiration. Okay, but what I can emphasize here is that as you can see, during expiration the diaphragm is contracting, it is reducing in size. Okay, then during inspiration it is relaxing like this. Then for question C, explain what causes the change in shape of H from diagram B to from diagram A to B. So as you can see here there is the expiration, isn't it? And then here there is what? There is inspiration. So during inspiration you are going to find that these the ribs, they are going to do what? They are going to relax during inspiration, and then during expiration the ribs, they are going to do what? They are going to contract. In short, during inspiration ribs, they move upward, and during expiration ribs, they move downward. So that is what is happening. So in in terms of the change, since it is saying explain what causes the change in shape of H from diagram A to B, so we're going to find that from A, as you can see here, the ribs they are contracting, then here the ribs are relaxing. So from A, so you can just say from A, the ribs are contracting. Okay, they are contracting. Then from B, so from B, so from A, let me just put A here, and then from B, the ribs they are doing what? They are relaxing. So that is one thing that you need to know here. So that is what is happening. Then as for D, or if you don't want to say this, for this one here, the ribs they have gone down, that is for A. Then for inspiration, the ribs they have gone up. So that is what is causing now this diaphragm to change the shape. Then as for D, name the muscles found between the structures labeled G. So the muscles which are found between labeled G, they are called intercostal muscles. Okay, so they are called intercostal muscles. The intercostal muscles. So these intercostal muscles, they have, we can just say they are about three. We have what we call the external intercostal muscles. We also have the inner intercostal muscles and also the innermost intercostal muscles. So that is what you just need to know at your level. And then for E, it is saying, how does the named structure in D help in breathing mechanism in diagram B? So what happens, or what really happens for the rib cage to expand like this? What usually happens to these muscles? So we're going to find that during inspiration, these intercostal muscles, they are going to do what? They are going to contract. In that they are going to help in what? In breathing. So once they contract, the rib cage is going to move up and the diaphragm is going to relax. So that is what usually happens. So the intercostal muscles, they do what? They contract. Once they contract, you're going to find that this enables the what? This enables them to move the rib cage upward. So we can just say this enables what? The rib cage. The rib cage to move upward. Okay, so this is very, very important to know. So once these intercostal muscles contract, they are going to move the rib cage upward, making them to expand like this. So that is what you need to know on that one. So let's also look at the second question. So this one is also coming from the human body, and specifically the female reproductive system. So it is saying the diagram, the following diagram shows the female reproductive system. So you need to know the parts first for you to answer these questions. So of course, even if they haven't asked us about this part here, I think you just need to know it. So this one is called the placenta. Okay, so this one is called the placenta, and this one is called the oviduct. Okay, so we can call it the oviduct or the fallopian tube. So there are two names. You can call it as the oviduct or the fallopian tube. So if the fallopian tube become difficult for you, you can just write, or if the spelling for fallopian tube is difficult for you, you can just write the oviduct, which is the simple one. They are going to mark you. Then when it comes to part labeled J, this one is called the ovary. So the ovary, they produce what? They produce the ovum or the eggs. Okay. Then when it comes to part labeled K for the oviduct, that is where now the fertilization occurs. Specifically, it occurs on the ampulla, which is the posterior ampulla. So there is the part here, which is called the posterior ampulla. Okay, so the spelling for ampulla is this one here. Just do this, ampulla, which is the posterior ampulla. Then for part labeled L, this part labeled L is called the uterus, or we can just say the uterus wall. Okay, the uterus. So what is the function of the uterus? That is where now the process of implantation occurs. So that is where now once fertilization occurs and the zygote is formed, that is when now it is going to be implanted. So the uterus, it has also the layers here that you need to know. So let me just finish this one here. So that is where now the implantation occurs. Then what part is this one here? So this part labeled M is called the cervix. So this cervix is very, very important during childbirth. It contracts and relaxes during childbirth. Then part labeled N is called the vagina. Okay, so this one is called the vagina, or the vaginal opening. All right. So when you talk of the vagina, it's just a passage where now the sperm passes. Okay. Now let's try to answer now the questions. Question A is saying identify organs L and M. So for L we can say it is the uterus. Then for M we can say it is the cervix. Then for question B, it is saying explain the functions of the organ J and K. For J, it produces what? Eggs. Or we can say the ovule or the ovaries. So that is one thing that you need to know. That's the function of J. Then what is the function of K? The function of K, this one is the fallopian tube. Like I said, that is where now the process of what? Fertilization takes place. So you can just say site for process of fertilization. So the spelling for site is this one here. And then you say site for fertilization. So when you say site, this word site, it means the place, okay, where fertilization occurs. Alright. Then as for question C, it is saying which organ produces chemicals associated with the changes at puberty. So one thing that you need to understand is that J, it also produces chemicals called hormones. Okay, like the follicle stimulating hormones, luteinizing hormones, they are produced by the ovaries. Okay, estrogen, those things, they are produced by the what? By the ovary. We have what we call the corpus of luteum or luteum. Okay, the corpus of luteum or luteum. That's according to how you pronounce it. Yeah, so it's called the corpus of luteum or luteum. It is found in the ovary. So this one is also, it also assists in the production of the estrogen and progesterone. So those are the chemicals. So you can just say it is part what? Part J, which is the ovary. And then as for D, then if you want the spelling for hormone, this is how we write the hormone. Then for D, it is saying explain the importance of observing hygiene of the part N. So part N is called the vagina. So why should we observe, or why is it important for observing the hygiene of part labeled N, which is the vagina? So number one, it is to prevent the infection. Okay. So girls or women, they are advised to take care of their vagina. They need to wash their vagina, keep it clean in order to prevent the infections. Okay, so that one is very, very important to know. And then apart from preventing the infections, avoiding bad smelling. Okay, so we can just say also avoiding bad smelling. So If a girl or a woman is not washing the vagina, you're going to find that it will start smelling. So avoiding bad smelling. So those things are very, very important to know. Okay? Yes. So let's also try to look at other questions. I think this one is the last one, which is coming from plants and animals. So it is saying the following diagrams show two different types of cells. So actually you are going to agree with me that this one is a plant cell because it has a rigid or fixed shape, and this one is the animal cell. Now let's try to label the parts before we answer the question. So even when you go in an exam, before even you start answering the question, at least try to identify the parts and then you answer the question. So you'll be just getting the answers from the same labels. So this part here, which is part S, it is called the nucleus. So nucleus is found in both plants and animals. So that is one thing that you need to understand. And the function of the nucleus is to control the activity of the cell. So to control the activity of the cell, that is the function. So to control the what? The activity of the cell. Okay, that is to control the activity of the cell. Then apart from controlling the activity of the cell, you're going to find that the nucleus also plays a role in storing the genetic information. So storing genetic information. Now this genetic information is in form of DNA. So it stores DNA, and that is the genetic information. So it has two functions: controlling the cell activities and also storing the genetic information in form of DNA. Then when it comes to part labeled R, this one is called cytoplasm. So when you talk of cytoplasm, it is jelly-like fluid. When you say jelly, it is watery-like. Okay, yeah. So that is where now the rate of chemical reactions occurs. So that is where now the rate of chemical reaction. So again, it's just a rate of chemical reaction occurs. Okay, like the metabolisms and others, glycolysis and others, all those things, they occur in the cytoplasm. Is it the cytoplasm? Yeah, in the cytoplasm. All right. So apart from that one, let's try to look at this part labeled the Q. So this part labeled Q is called the cell membrane. Okay, and you know to say that cell membrane and the cytoplasm is common in both plants and animals. And what is the function of the cell membrane? The cell membrane acts as a selectively semi-permeable. So what it means is that it selects what goes in and out of the cell, selectively permeable. Okay, so selectively permeable. Okay, selectively permeable membrane. So meaning it selects what goes in and out of the cell. So there are some substances which can't cross through the cell membrane, and there are those which can cross across the cell membrane. So like water can cross by the process of osmosis, and you know that. Okay, but there are some other substances which can't cross directly across the cell membrane. So those things, they are going to use now the transporters or the channels for them to get into the cell. Then as for part labeled P, it is called the cell wall. So as you can see, the cell wall is only found in plants, and the function of the cell wall, it is to provide the fixed shape of a plant cell. So as you can see here, because of the cell wall, the plant cell has a fixed shape. So we can just say it provides the fixed shape of a plant cell. So that is one thing that you need to know. Okay, and then when it comes to part labeled O, as you can see, O is not found in cell U, which is the animal cell. So let's also identify this one as an animal cell, and this cell T as a plant cell. Okay, so part O is called the vacuole. Okay, so the vacuole is only found, but it is also found in animals now in small amount, so it is insignificant, so we consider it not present in animals. And usually the vacuole is made up of cell sap. Okay, it is made up of the cell sap, so the function is that it consists of the cell sap. Now this cell sap is just a mixture of water. Okay, the first thing is water, apart from water, salt and sugar. So now this, when we mix them, we are going to find that we are going to have a solution. So it has a solution called the cell sap. That's the function. It consists of the cell sap, which is the solution, and this one assists in the process of osmosis and other transportation and other transport system plants. Okay, so now let's try to answer these questions. Question A: which of the two cells, T or U, is a plant cell? So I've already identified there, so you can just say cell T, which is a plant cell. Then identify the part labeled Q. So part labeled Q is this one here. We have already identified that one, which is the cell membrane. Okay, so part labeled Q is called the cell membrane. Then question C is saying state the functions of the structures P and R. So what is P? P is the cell wall and R is the cytoplasm. So like I said, for P, it gives the what? The plant cell the fixed shape. So we can say for P, this one gives the cell fixed shape. Okay, that is one thing that needs to know. Then when it comes to R, R is what? R is the cytoplasm. So R is the cytoplasm. Like I said, this one is the site, so we can say site. Whenever you hear the word site, it's a place or the location. So site for chemical reaction. That is where now chemical reaction occurs. So these are the answers for question C. R, site for chemical reactions. Okay. Then for P, this one gives the cell the fixed shape. Then when it comes to question D, it is saying which structure was omitted in cell T. Okay, let's see which structure was omitted in cell T. So as you can see here, plants, they have chloroplast, and this chloroplast is found in between the cell membrane and the cell wall. So here we are supposed to have something like these ones here, and these they are called the chloroplast or chlorophyll. So these are the structures which was omitted in this diagram here. So these they are called the chloroplast or chlorophyll. So the spelling is this one here, the chloroplast or chlorophyll. Alright, so that is the answer for question D. Then for question E, it is saying explain one structural difference between cell T and cell U. So cell T is the plant and cell U is the animal. So as you can see here, you can talk of the vacuole or you can talk of the cell wall. So the plant cell, it has the cell wall, while an animal cell doesn't have, or you can talk of the vacuole. The plant cell has the vacuole, whereas the animal cell doesn't have. Apart from that one, you can talk of the shapes. So you can say for the animal cell, since they are saying the cells, we are going to say cell U has irregular shape. So when you say irregular shape, this means that it doesn't have the fixed shape, isn't it? So it has irregular shape, and then when it comes to cell T, which is the plant cell, this one here, it has what? It has a fixed shape. So cell T, you can say it has a fixed shape. So those are the differences. You can just choose. Okay, you can talk about the vacuole, the cell wall, or in terms of the shape. So I think that was the last one. Thanks for watching, and remember to subscribe and share this video.